Okay guys, welcome back to part 2 of this video. In part 1 we discussed about readiness check, and if you haven't watched that video, please go ahead and watch that. I'll provide the link of that video in the description below. So in this video we will talk about routing control. So what is routing control? Like I mentioned in my last video, routing control provide you a single button facility to route your traffic from one region to another region. So readiness check tells you whether the region is ready or not to fail, or routing control give you a mechanism or single button on or off switch to route traffic from one region to another region. So it has four different components, you can say. First one is the cluster. So cluster is basically created to host your control plane and your routing controls and your health checks. And it provide you a cluster endpoint. So if you have any API or CLI commands using to provide the high availability, it provide you five different endpoints which are highly available in different regions. So you can use either one of these endpoints to make those API calls to make sure they succeed. If one region is down, so you can use another region endpoint, and it will help you to make sure that API call is successful. So second component in that is control plane. Control plane is basically group of your routing controls. So under one control plane you can create multiple routing controls. It's just kind of provide a grouping of your routing controls, and whenever you create a cluster, default control plane is created, and you can add more control plane as required for, for for your use case. Next is the routing control. Routing control is basically a single button or on and off switch which are created to route your traffic, and these control you can create at a region level or at a easy level, and it will be part of your control plane, and I'll show in a demo what how you can create these and how it works. So with each routing control you have to create a health check as well, and this health check is like normal health check. Make a TCP connection or kind of TCP health check or HTTP health check. They check for those things, but this health check basically is checking that whether the routing control is on or off, whether this control is saying switch is on or off, and based on that the health check is say that whether it's healthy or not. If your routing control switch is on, then the health check will be healthy. If the routing control switch is off, then the health check will be unhealthy. Okay guys, now let's see in a demo how routing control work. So I'm in Route 53 console, and under application recovery controller you will see routing control. I clicked on that. So first thing we need to create is uh, control plane or routing control, and before that you know that we need to create a cluster. So let's first create a cluster because that will host our control plane and our routing control. So I'll save my cluster, and this cluster I think is charged $2.5 per hour. So they ask you to confirm the pricing uh, to make sure that you're aware of that you will be charged for that. So let's click on create cluster, and it will take few seconds to complete. And when you create a cluster, you will see that a default control plane is also deployed along with that. So my cluster is deployed, along with that my control plane is deployed, but if you want you can create more control plane as well. Under the control plane you will have routing controls and the safety rules. So let's add our routing control as well. To do that, we'll click on add routing control, and we'll say that routing control for US East 1, and it will be under my web app cluster and with my default control plane. Okay, and we'll create one more routing control for another region. So I have two region, one is US East 1 and one is US East 2. So we'll create one routing control for each of the region. Let's click on create. So my two routing controls are created. Now under the routing control, like I mentioned, for each routing control we have to create a health check as well. So let's open the first routing control and we'll add a health check. So under that routing control, we'll click on create health check. We'll say US East 1 AL health check, and we'll click on create. Similarly, we create for my second routing control as well. US East 2 health check, create. So my health checks are created. So like I mentioned in the PPT, we have a cluster. On that cluster we have our endpoints, API endpoints. So you can see that we get one endpoint for each of my region, to give you high availability. Under that cluster you got control plane, you got the default one, and you have two controls under that, and these are the two controls you have. And for each control we have created one health check endpoints. So right now you will see that routing control state is off and off, so you can change it. You can select either one of them, and you can say change routing control, and you can change the state to from on to off. So we'll do one thing for US East 1. We'll set it as confirm, and we'll say change routing. So now this is on. So next thing, what now, how my application will get to know whether it's on or off or what. So for that, what we will do, that we'll create a hosted zone in our Route 53. So let's go to Route 53 hosted zones, where I have already created one hosted public hosted zone, and the domain name is agpronet.biz. I have this domain hosted on Google, and I have already done the mapping, where I picked up these NS records and put it in Google domain. So, and if you want to do it, you can check out my other video on DNS. I'll provide the link in the description as well. So next, what we will do, we'll create two records in that, and two A records, and we'll give the alias. So what we are gonna do, that we'll create a route failure routing policy with US East 1 as primary and uh, US East 2 as secondary. And in the health check, instead of giving any other health check normally you create in the Route 53, we'll use the health check which we created for each of the routing control. So for each region you have a routing control, and for each routing control you have a health check, and we'll use that health check. We are saying application load balancer in US East 1, and we'll choose the ALB in that. Then we say the failover one, this is my primary region, and we'll use the US East 1 health check. And we can say US East 1 record ID and create record. Similarly, we create another record, alias checkpoint is application load balancer, my US East 2, and my load balancer failover, this is my secondary US East 2 record ID. So what I had done, that I created one primary and one secondary. Now when the traffic will come from for agpronet.biz, it will check which one is primary, it will go there, and in the primary it will check the health check, whether the health check is healthy or not. So like I mentioned, that in this case the health check will go and check whether the control routing control is set to on or off. If the routing control is set to on, that means it will go ahead and say that health check is healthy. If the routing control is set to off, then it will go and say that health check is unhealthy. So in this particular case, what we have done, that the health check for the US East 1 will be healthy, because my routing control Let me open that, because my routing control for US East 1 is set to on. That means the health check associated with this will be healthy, and it will say that route the traffic to my primary, my US East 1. So just to show you that in US East 1, the ELB I have, if I open it, it will display like this: US hello world US East 1. And if I go to my US East 2, so for my ALB in US East 2, if I copy that and display it, it will show you normal hello world. So in US East 1 it will show you US East 1, but in US East 2 it will just show you hello world. Next, let's go to Route 53, and we'll try to display easypronet.biz, and we'll see that what it display. So once I open agpronet.biz, it's going to my US East 1, because routing control is saying that my US East 1 is on, so all the traffic is going to that. Next, let's go ahead and go to our routing control, and we'll switch it. So what we are gonna do, we'll mark this as off and we'll mark this as on. So my traffic should go to my US East 2 instead of my US East 1. So we can do go and change, confirm. Let me do one thing before that. Let me show you the health checks as well, before we do that. So you can see that my US East 1 is healthy and US East 2 is unhealthy. And once we switch for my routing control, you will see that US East 1 will be unhealthy and US East 2 will be my healthy. So go to routing control, and we can make it as on, confirm, and then we can turn it off. So what it will do, it will mark the health check for US East 1 as unhealthy and for US East 2 as healthy. So it might take a little bit of time, few seconds. So I'll pause the video and then we'll see the change. Okay guys, as you can see, my US East 2 health check is healthy and US East 1 health check is unhealthy. Now let's go to our website agpronet.biz and see what happened. So if I open that website agpronet.biz, you can see that my traffic is going to hello world, is going to my US East 2 region, not to US East 1. So you can see that by how we can control our traffic by using this routing control, by just clicking one button in these routing control, by turning it on and off, I can route the traffic from one region to another region. And this can be done between your easy environments as well, if you want to route traffic from one availability zone to another availability zone, or from one region to another region as well. Okay guys, just to share some reference architecture, this is the multi region environment where you have Route 53 failover policy, and traffic is going to US East 1, and you can see the routing control you have set to on for this region US East 1, and for US West 1 is off. So all the traffic is going to my US East 1, but the moment I turn this routing control to off, health check will fail, and Route 53 will start sending traffic to my US West 1 where the routing control was turned on. Similarly, I can do the same for my multi-AZ environment as well. In this case, my both the AZs are on, routing control is on, so my traffic is going to both of these AZs. It's not like failover, but just kind of like maybe balanced traffic going to both of them. Suppose now you need to take down one of the AZ, or one of the AZ is having some issues and you want to cut off the traffic. So you can just turn off the routing control switch in that particular AZ, and your traffic will be uh, moved only to AZ2. You can also do the nested one, like you have routing control turned off in one region, and under that you have availability zones. uh, so you can control traffic, whether you can have routing control for at the region level, and then you can have routing control at the AZ level as well, to control the traffic whether it should go in that particular AZ or not. So that's a little bit about the different architectures you can use by using the routing control, and you can uh, control your traffic where it's going and where you want to control it. Next is about safety rules. Safety rules, like I mentioned, that before doing any failover, you can create some safety rules which will evaluate to make sure that your failover is happening properly. It helps like customer defined rules that enforce certain precondition between before failover. So those conditions are checked before the failover will start. It avoid cascading failures due to client side bugs. So before suppose you want to do some kind of like a readiness check, or you want to make sure these things are there before you fail over, you can define those in your safety rules, and those will be evaluated. If everything is true, only then your failover will happen. That also prevent the small issues causing outsized impacts due to the health check failing to non-critical issues as well. So few of the examples is like failover only if there is a sufficient spare capacity in that particular availability zone or particular region, or failover only one AZ at a time. So suppose you are failing over to two AZs, so they are saying that you fail over only to one AZ at a time. So these kind of safety rules you can put it in there, which will be evaluated before your failover happen. Next, let's talk about few of the use cases. The first one is mitigation of partial failures, greater control over cross AZ recovery mechanism. And this one is when you say the partial failure. So sometimes what happen that your whole availability zone is not down. Only few of the services are down, or maybe having some high latency. So in those cases, you might want to fail over, and your normal health check might not recognize those higher latency things, and might not do the failover. So this routing control mechanism can be used to failover to your secondary region or secondary availability zone in those scenarios, and it's just a one click button like I showed in the demo. So that's a very good use case where these features can be used. In case of disaster recovery and multi-region failovers, like I mentioned and showed you as well, that you can fail over to a secondary region. Third one is design recovery oriented apps, built and manage apps that can recover within few minutes from almost all failures. So if you have anything where you want to quickly fail over to your backup region, suppose you have any banking app where you cannot or maybe credit card app where you cannot face very, or you cannot have large recovery time objective RTO or RPO. So those for those kind of use cases, this particular service is beneficial. Central control over application recovery operation across orgs. So you can have one place where you can control all your applications and how you want to fail over those application. You can also view at a single place that is your whole application is ready, or any particular component is failing or not. Fifth one is the manual or override to shift traffic for maintenance purpose. So suppose you want to have a maintenance in one region and you want to fail over to a secondary region for timing, you can do that as well. Another use case can be like if you are running your application in three availability zones, and you're deploying a new app, so you deployed in one AZ and you start facing some issues, so you can cut off traffic to that one and do your debugging and testing and all those things, and then you can bring it on by using those controls. So that's all about application recovery controller, guys. Hope you like these two videos, and if you have any question about these, please feel free to put a comment and I'll be happy to answer those questions. And please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. I'm working to bring up new videos on newly launched services and old services as well. If you have any topic in mind, please feel free to put in the comment and I'll try to record a video on that as well. Thank you so much guys for watching.